Hello, hello, and welcome to 5 days to kicking anxiety's ass, day one. Today is going to be just an entry into the world of starting to change your perspective on anxiety. If you're here, it's because you are likely just spinning your wheels when it comes to anxiety. You are feeling really out of control, or maybe you feel like you are controlling it so tightly that if you slip up just a little bit, it's going to come out and just go wild. So, what I want to say today is that however you're feeling, you're here. And that's a big, big feat in and of itself. Because when you have anxiety and when it becomes very overwhelming, it can be something that's so hard to even make any kind of decision at all. And so just being here for the anxiety event is huge. And I just want to commend you on that. So I'm going to go into just welcoming you. Like what I just did with commending you on it is, it's huge that you're here. But also, I want to tell you that in these 5 days, if you follow everything I'm saying, if you really keep an open mind and an open heart and you do the homework I'm telling you to do, even if it may seem silly or uncomfortable or whatever, I promise you this process works. I promise you that you will feel some type of shift, little or big, in these 5 days if you stick with me and follow what I'm telling you. I suffered from anxiety my entire life, and I am set free from it because of the things I'm going to teach you this week. And now, 5 days may seem like a lot, but it is nowhere near the amount of detail I am going to be able to cover just in 5 days together. So, at the end of the 5 days, you're going to have an opportunity to have a really special discount because you went for it and you committed to these 5 days. You're going to get a discount on the full Empowered Anxiety course. And that's going to be available to you simply because you were at this event. And I want to tell you that it's actually harder to attend free events than it is to attend paid ones. So when we pay for something, that money is locking us in and it makes you feel like, okay, I better show up. But when it's free, it's a lot easier to blow off. So that's why if you get to the end of this event, that's why I'm giving you a gift, because that means you're really invested. That means you really want to change. That means you really, really want to stand empowered with your anxiety and stop letting it take hold of your life. And that is something to be celebrated. And that's why I'm going to give that gift. So I want to go into my story first, just so that you have a little background on me. It's going to be a really condensed story because my anxiety journey has literally been my entire life. And I always say this on my stories or my content that anxiety for me was unconscious for 10 years, or unconscious for about 20 years, I'm sorry, and then conscious for about 10 years. And there wasn't much of a difference in how I felt, besides once I was conscious of having anxiety, I just felt a little bit more crazy. And, I think it's really good that in this day and age, with our society that's evolving, of course, we have a very long way to go, but mental health awareness is at an all-time high. And that wasn't the case for our parents' generations or other generations before this. I'm a millennial. So before me, it really wasn't a norm. And so I want to say that we have so many more resources for anxiety and depression and all these different things that so many people struggle with. And we don't realize how many people do actually suffer from this. And I think that back in the day, it was more of a psychological issue if you had any issues at all. Like, it was always swept under the rug. You were always supposed to be normal and, normal to societal standards. And so with this change, it became less normal to have nothing going on and more normal to have anxiety or experience anxiety. And I just want to address that, because I'm going to be going over 5 different types of anxiety, and we're going to go over how, like, the 5 types that I've boiled it down to, and then you're going to start to piece together how they resonate in your world, like how they show up in your world, in your day-to-day life. So my journey was really 20 years. I was anxious my whole life. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know that I was anxious. I just thought it was part of me, who I was. It was before everyone was saying, like, I have anxiety, or how you can I hear, maybe it's just because I'm hypersensitive to it now because I teach anxiety and how to become empowered with it. But I hear all the time people saying, I have anxiety, or it's my anxiety, or things like that. And I don't remember ever hearing that when I was little. So again, that's societal change. But when I was little, I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was just who I was. And so that kind of plays a part in my story. And as I went through life, like, I remember having random panic attacks, like when I was going to bed, because I was nervous that I was going to die in my sleep and lose my whole family. And that sounds really extreme, but I want to be vulnerable over these 5 days. And I want to show you what I went through, so that 1, you don't feel alone. And so that 2, you can see how far that severity of anxiety can come with these tools that I'm going to teach you over the 5 days. And so I would literally have panic attacks before I went to sleep. I was so nervous to go to sleep. I was scared of the dark, mainly because I knew that once nighttime came, anxiety rose. Like, that feeling within me, even though I didn't define it as anxiety, it rose. And so, and I know that there was a lot of times where, like at sleepovers or things like that, people would be like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you so nervous? Or why are you crying? Or like, I would get so overwhelmed and just outburst with emotions, and I didn't know what it was. So that's going to be one of the 5 types of anxiety that I'm going to go over. But I also started to get anxiety when I ate certain things. I knew that my body couldn't really handle sugar or caffeine very well, because the first time I had a full-blown panic attack, and it was called a panic attack, was after drinking like a ton of coffee and smoking a bunch of cigarettes in high school. And so that's where my first panic attack happened. And I remember the school nurse calling my mom and saying, she just had a panic attack. It was no big deal. But this is what happened. And she's sitting in my office. And I remember saying in my head, like, that was the most horrible thing that I've ever experienced, and I don't ever want to experience it again. And so that experience of my first known panic attack was so traumatic. And if you've had panic attacks before, you know that it's traumatic because it's scary. Like, you feel like you can't regulate your body. You feel like sometimes you can't see, like you have blurred vision, or you're like, for me, my breathing gets really, really labored, and it really escalates things. And so knowing that was a panic attack, I wanted to avoid that feeling at all costs. Keyword avoid. So what I started to do for the next 10 years was push it down. I pushed it down so much. And as stress rose in my world, I didn't know how to handle it. And society also does this thing where they like to normalize stress. It's supposed to be stressful. Life's supposed to be stressful. Work's supposed to be stressful. School's supposed to be stressful. Everything is supposed to be stressful. And it's just keeping us in this loop of fight or flight mode. That's the anxiety response, is when our brain is in fight or flight mode. And I'm also going to go over those two things too, the two different parts of our brains. I'm just writing that down so I don't forget. So yeah, so you stay in fight or flight mode. Society really wants you to stay in that mode for a lot of reasons, especially in America. It's very grind and fight your way to the top kind of mentality. So it's in their best interest to keep us in fight or flight mode. But when you start to gain control of, and I want to be really careful with using the word control, because as I said, I controlled anxiety for a lot of years and it did me no good, because eventually it all boiled over and I then entered the worst phase of anxiety of my life because I pushed it down for so many years. And so I want to tell you that we are not going to learn how to control it here. In these 5 days, you're not going to learn how to control anxiety. You're going to learn how to move through it. And that sounds scary, but I promise you, stick with me, because it sounds so much scarier than it is. And after you get through it, after you choose to see it, it's not as scary. And you have to go through a few trials of actually moving through it and feeling the things that you don't want to feel, feeling the panic attack, feeling like the blood pressure rise, all of that. It's very overwhelming to experience anxiety, but it's even more, but anxiety comes from overwhelm, right? So you're just feeding one with the other by avoiding it or trying to control it. So we are going to learn how to actually move through it in a really, really healthy way. And I'm really excited for you to experience that, because after, you may not feel amazing, like you may not feel like you're on top of the world after the first time you do it, but you are going to be proud. Like you are going to feel like you did the hard thing. And I always kind of equate it to, like, I used to get extreme anxiety when I would go to the doctor's office as a kid. I really didn't want to get shots. It was more because I realized this later in life, but it was more because it was just so invasive. It wasn't really about the pain or the needle. It was more just like, I didn't want to do it and I didn't want to have someone hold me down to do it. And so, I remember after, everybody used to say, like, I would throw a fit, right? And then everybody would say, like, oh, that wasn't that bad, was it? And I would say, yes, it was bad. Just because it's over doesn't mean it wasn't bad. And so I want you to know that I feel you. I'm here with you. I know that anxiety and panic attacks feel like complete shit. And I'm not going to get them to not feel like shit. I'm going to get you to not feel like shit afterwards. And I'm also going to get you to know that beforehand, when you feel it bubbling up, you're going to be like, okay, I know what to do. That's the biggest thing. I want you to know what to do. I want you to feel comfortable with yourself and really trust yourself enough to get yourself through this. And that's what compounds when we keep avoiding it. So after I pushed it down and pushed it down and pushed it down for years, it bubbled over and I entered into the worst phase of my life with anxiety. I was having panic attacks left and right. I also became extremely indecisive. So when it gets to a certain point, you get, or at least I did, I did not trust any thoughts that went on in my head, because all the thoughts, like the inner dialogue, and we're going to talk about this later, the inner dialogue was, just writing that down too, because I will forget. The inner dialogue was going on in my head and I didn't know what was me. I didn't know what was a real thought, what was a trick, what was anxiety, what was overthinking, what was, so like when you push anxiety down that much, you start to overthink constantly, which leads to becoming indecisive, which leads to more anxiety because then maybe you'll push things off, or people will pressure you, or you won't feel like you'll feel like just beat down about yourself because you're like, what's wrong with me? I can't make a decision. And so it becomes really, really fucking, it spirals out of control so fast. And I want to, if you're at that point, I want to bring you back a little bit. And if you're not at that point yet, I want to prevent you hitting that point at all, because it's really hard to come back from. With my system, you can come back from it 100%. I came back from it. And then basically what I did was I started to have really bad panic attacks. I went to see a therapist. I made the mistake of thinking the work was done, which is usually what happens with personal development, and like our ego gets a little bit inflated and it's like, oh, I've done all the work. Like I conquered anxiety. I'm good. And I didn't have a panic attack for 10 years. Then I had my rock bottom, which was worse than the 10 years prior. And it was during COVID, and I started to have horrible panic attacks. I was working out. I was running 5 miles a day or more just to exhaust my body so much that I would fall asleep even if my mind couldn't calm down at night. Like I literally wanted to knock myself out because I could not handle the anxiety that was coming up. And so one night I was sitting in bed and I had this thought. I was literally on the verge of a panic attack, and I just surrendered to it. Like I remember just saying, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I just have to allow that. And I was sitting there and I got this thought, and it popped into my head, and it was a feeling and a thought at the same time. And that's how I know it was something so different. And I'm getting chills right now just talking about it, because it's what set me on this journey. And I remember feeling that I had this journey with anxiety because I was meant to help others out of it. And because I now had this new purpose, this new way of service through anxiety, I became really engaged and obsessed with all the things I could do to harness the power within me to move through this and to conquer this ultimately. And I have. And even as I was leading up to making this series and this event, I literally started to feel anxiety again. And it's so funny because this happened when I created the course. This happened the last time I did live series about anxiety. And I remember feeling it all of a sudden. And I, again, the ego, like I remember being like, why am I getting anxiety? Like I'm about to teach about anxiety. And then it was like, no, like the universe was just showing me little things so that I could remember and be more in the experience and resonate with you as you go through it closer, because I had some more recent experiences. And I think it was also to remind me that it was time for me to use my tools and prove to myself again that I knew that this system worked. So right now, I want to tell you that after that, I became obsessed with coming up with tools and a system to get through anxiety. And it's multifaceted. It's definitely a holistic approach that keeps things in check the most. And the objective here is for you to just basically have this toolbox of things to use when anxiety comes up. And I want to be very clear that something that you use today may not work in 3 months or 3 weeks or even tomorrow. So you have to be really fluid with what you need, and you have to really tap into that self-trust, which we're going to get into. You have to tap into that self-trust of sitting there and just thinking like, what do I need from myself right now? What do I need right now to get through this? And that's going to be more on the day where we talk about spirituality and the bigger picture and all that stuff. And that's towards the end of the 5 days. So Today is going to be all about understanding. It's going to be a little educational. I want you to keep an open mind, have a really objective view of all of this, and then you're going to start to see the rest of the week unfold as how does it all resonate to you in your world. So I want to go over the 5 types of anxiety that I have boiled it down to. It was 3, and then I boiled it down even further to 5. So this is always evolving. I will update as it changes, and I'm just really excited for you to have this information, to go over it with you. I'm excited for day 1. Let's get into the 5 types of anxiety. And I want you to think, as I'm saying these to you, I don't want you to internalize it as much yet. I want you to just go into the common sense corner of your brain. The common sense corner is something that Tony Robbins uses. He taught me this. And when you hear something, and I want you to use discernment, like you shouldn't believe it just because I'm saying it, or just because some other person's saying it, or just because someone who calls himself a guru is saying it. You should use the common sense corner of your brain. So it's when you take a step back, you go into the common sense corner, you say, okay, does this make sense to me? If it doesn't, why not? If it doesn't make sense to you, you can always DM me on Instagram, ask me further questions, whatever you need. Instagram is @TrueTori. DM me and ask me anything. If I don't know, I'll get you a resource that does. So go into the common sense corner and just say, does this make sense to me? If not, why not? And then take it or leave it. Okay. So the first type of anxiety, I'm going to take a sip of water. First type of anxiety is really simple. It's the physical reaction. So physical reaction is going to be something that you put inside your body, right? So this is usually caffeine, sugar, fried foods, any stimulants. So like caffeine is a stimulant, but you would be surprised, actually hot sauce is one as well. Cacao has caffeine in it, even though it's natural. Maca root it might have natural caffeine in it, but I know that maca root it increases your energy. And so again, even if it is natural, even if it's a superfood like maca and cacao, use your discernment, always check the serving size, because those things can cause it. Like I've had a horrible panic attack from maca before because I had way too much. And so I want you to know that I am all for holistic health and all the things natural, but you have to keep in mind the chemistry of your body and how it reacts to it, and also how you may react to things that other people may not. So with the physical aspect, it could be any of those things, any of the things that seem obvious in terms of, like, I see people all the time, they're like, I'm going to drink this huge thing of coffee and get anxiety after. Well, you clearly just made that connection, right? You know that it's going to contribute and that you're going to have anxiety after. So don't do it if you don't want the anxiety. And I think that the physical aspect is a very simple one. It's a very, don't do the thing, don't get the anxiety. And it's also the easiest thing for you to weed out what's actually, in the 2, 3, 4, and 5 types of anxiety and what's physical. So once you stop eating things that cause you to have an anxious reaction physically, then when you get anxiety, you know that it's not that, and it helps you narrow it down that much more. Because the next ones are going to be increasingly a little bit harder to discern and harder to recognize. So we want to weed out as many possibilities as possible, especially using physical, because it's the one you have most control of in the moment. So yeah, so watch it with the caffeine, the sugar, um, any stimulants, nicotine, any of that kind of stuff can definitely increase anxiety. I also want to tell you that you probably don't know about it, but it's called glyphosate. Glyphosate is Roundup weed killer, and it is in all of our non-organic things. There's even an allowable percentage of glyphosate in organic ingredients. And so I take a superfood supplement that gets rid of anxiety, gets rid of glyphosate up to 70% in your body in 6 weeks, I believe. So I take that every single day, and it really helps a lot. So yeah, there's things in this world, like there's so many toxins, there's so many things that contribute to our mental health. And I think one of the things that you have to start to wrap your head around, if you're not there already, is that our physical health has a huge impact on our mental health and vice versa. And then your spiritual health is kind of just thrown in there. So we have to really start to connect the two. And that's when you're going to see some more tangible results. Okay. Number 2, second type of anxiety is habitual or circumstantial. So it's a really easy example. Habitual is like if you're late to work every day and you're on your way in and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm late, I'm going to get fired, I'm going to get yelled at, and you start like spiraling out of control in your mind. Like that's something you can control, right? You can control being late. And so if you control being late and you're on time tomorrow and you still have anxiety, then we've weeded out another one. Does that make sense? So look at what kind of habits are coming up that cause you anxiety. Like that's going to be a part of the homework tonight. So you don't have to worry about it now because I am going to send it out in the email. But another thing that's in our control is the habitual. Little bit harder to break. Same thing, like physical and habitual can coincide because, drinking coffee or smoking cigarettes, that's a habit. So you can control them. It depends on the difficulty in terms of how bad you want to stop and how long you've been doing it for, and what if you believe you need it or not. So there's different ways of working through that mindset wise, but there is overlap between those two types. And then the other half of number 2 is circumstantial. So similar thing, like I like to use the example of work, and it's like, say that there's some craziness at work, maybe a deadline, or your boss is like a loose cannon, or there's someone there that just like does weird stuff, or like, I don't know, talk shit. Like, I don't know. I don't work in an office anymore, so I'm trying to remember all the annoying things. So those are circumstantial pieces that contribute to anxiety. So like say you go and talk to your boss and your boss is a loose cannon and you're worried about talking to him or her. That can be circumstantial anxiety. And what I would tell you with that is just you have to start to release control of how much these people control you, because circumstantial power over personal power will end in anxiety and disempowerment every single time. Circumstantial power is really giving power to external forces to determine your mood and your state. And so if you don't allow that and you stand in your personal power, no matter what's happening around you, that's when you're going to not have anxiety in those circumstances. And I want to tell you that takes practice. You're not going to change it tomorrow. That absolutely takes practice. That takes, you're walking to your boss's office and your hands are sweating. and you're breathing and you're telling yourself it's going to be okay. And when you go in, you stand your ground, you tell them whatever, and maybe you even tell them if they're disrespectful to not disrespect you. And eventually, enough of those instances under your belt, enough of talking and acting on these things, you start to feel better. And all of a sudden, one day you do something and you realize, oh my God, that used to cause me so much anxiety and it doesn't anymore. So these are more, I would say it's more of a character shift. It's more of a becoming empowered in situations. And that can be really helped with like coaching, getting a mentor, maybe just embarking on your own personal development journey, journaling about who you want to be, how do you want to respond to people, what do you want to do in those situations, how do you want people to treat you, and then going even deeper to think of and say, what is the energy that I'm putting out into this world? Am I putting out nervous energy? Is that why people respond to me that way? It's a level of taking responsibility for your own energy, and that's when things start to shift. So I don't want to overwhelm you by going way too deep into that. I talk about that stuff on my Instagram and in all of my content all the time. But yeah, that's the gist of it. And if you want to go deeper on that, you can absolutely reach out to me. It's more just that I don't want to overwhelm whoever's watching with that. But if you want to go deeper, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. So number 3 is going to be deep-rooted emotional things. So the way that this works is when we experience anxiety, and say that we've weeded out physical, habitual, circumstantial, deep-rooted emotional, right? When anxiety comes up, and I said it in the beginning, sometimes you don't know why. When anxiety comes up and you don't know why, this is when, as long as it's okay with you, you go deep. And the reason I say as long as it's okay with you is because if you have past traumas, you have to tread lightly. You have to maybe have professional help or someone who is trauma informed to walk you through that. And then if you don't, and you're okay with going that, and you trust yourself and you know how to pull yourself out of the dark place, then definitely use your discernment and do that. But you need to know where you're at in that regard. So I would say if you're super fragile right now, if you're experiencing anxiety, experiencing a really severe level of anxiety, if you're having constant panic attacks, if you're not knowing why, if you cut out the coffee and you cut out the cigarettes and you cut out the sugar and you cut out all the different things, and you stop being late to work and you start standing up to your boss and you do all those things for 1 and 2 and you still feel like you have a lot of anxiety, I think that then it's time to get help, whether it's a coach, a mentor who's trauma informed, or a therapist, or a psychologist, or someone who can really talk you through it, someone who can create a safe space for you. Because when we go deep, and I've gone very deep before, there is a really specific process that I put into place for my own journey and with my clients and with everybody who's in the Empowered Anxiety course. Is I call it the self-love sandwich. So what the self-love sandwich is shadow work, right? So shadow work is looking at all the things we don't want to look at, right? All the things in the shadows, all the scary monsters, all the things that could be causing the anxiety. And I want to tell you that anxiety is like a gift, right? It's the wrapping paper of a gift. Once you strip away the anxiety, what is inside the gift? Because anxiety is not the, it's not the thing, it's the thing, it's not the thing, it's what the thing is hiding under. So like I like to call it the invisibility cloak. Like it is literally hiding a fear, a trauma, something deep that needs to be pulled out, needs to be healed, needs to be brought up. But as I said, depending on where you're at, it is extremely crucial for you to do that in the most gentle way possible. So if you are going to do this by yourself, if you have discerned that you are capable of doing this yourself right now, if you're not capable, do not let your ego get involved. It's absolutely okay if you need help. I needed help at one point. I needed help at 2 points. And now I don't need help anymore. Maybe in 5 years, I might need help again, and that's okay. So I want you to know that it means nothing if you need help and if you don't need help. It's more about doing what's right for you. And I really, really, really want to drive that home. So if you're going to do this by yourself, or even if you're going to do it with a therapist, honestly, you can use this exercise as well. Self-love sandwich is you anchor yourself with self-love, you bring the vibe up before you do the shadow work. You start to feel empowered. You really anchor into self-love and acceptance and just really being in your body and your own soul and giving yourself love. Like that's the best way I can explain it. Then you enter into shadow work. You go to the dark place, you go to the dark depths, you go to the monsters, you journal on it, you feel those really uncomfortable feelings, you sit there and you honestly just like sit with them. Like you sit with that discomfort, you sit with that pain, you sit with that anxiety, you sit with that depression, like you sit with those things. And then when you're done, like I would say that the best way to do it also is just to set a time limit until you are really seasoned in shadow work and doing shadow work. I would say set a time limit just so that you don't get like enthralled in the darkest depths of your soul. So set a timer, set like maybe 15 minutes to just sit here and feel. You could journal to try to invoke those emotions because sometimes they don't always come out. Sometimes we get so good at pushing them down that they don't come out. And so you're going to sit with those things that you don't want to deal with. And then when the timer goes off, you're going to end with self-love. So in the course, I give the self-love sandwich is a self-love EFT. EFT tapping is a way to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So EFT tapping is basically like psychological acupressure. You use acupressure points. So like top of the head, top of the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose, under the lip, collarbone, under the arm, and then on your hand. And I give you a self-love EFT. I actually have it up on my YouTube, but I'm going to send you it with the replay tonight. Writing that down too. You know me and my notes. Okay, so you do the EFT beforehand because it's going to program you to self-love, program you to love yourself. So you do that before 15 minutes of shadow work or whatever amount of time you're going to do, and then self-love after. And I love that self-love sandwich because it just sets you up to come out, to go into the dark place high, empowered, in a really self-trusting space and self-loving space, so that when you look at the things that aren't as lovable, you can see them a little bit differently. And then when you come out, you remind yourself. So that's number 3. That one is really tricky. And so remember everything I said with just, you know, how you're going to go about doing it, because it's important. It's important to get help if you need help. It's important to be gentle with yourself and take your time. Number 4 is high functioning anxiety. High functioning anxiety is just like honestly a fucker, because a lot of people think that anxiety, oh my God, excuse me. A lot of people think that anxiety is just like this person that's sitting in the corner of the room, like in the fetal position, rocking back and forth and unable to do anything. And while that is very true in some senses, and there's nothing wrong with that, I've been there before. High functioning anxiety is the go-getter. High functioning anxiety, the person who has high functioning anxiety is the go-getter, the high achiever, the person who gets the goals, fucking crushes the goals, takes on huge things, fills their plate and their schedule and all these things, stays busy. Okay? Keyword stays busy. High functioning anxiety is you have anxiety while you're doing these things, but it's not crippling you from doing the things. It's propelling the anxiety. It's giving the anxiety a space to breed and live, because each new task, each new thing, it's a way for the anxiety to reproduce. When you stop, when you're a high functioning anxiety person and you stop, that's where you start to feel the anxiety. That's where you start to feel like, holy shit, what do I do? You don't want to be alone with your thoughts. Maybe you have a hard time sleeping. Maybe you have a hard time with going on vacation, or just relaxing on a Sunday, or relaxing at any time throughout the day. Your brain is always working, and that's the part where like you don't have peace, because you don't know how to relax. And because a lot of times you think you don't know how to relax, because when you relax, you are now alone with your thoughts, and you're scared of that, because there's things that you've been pushing down for so long, so many years, so many experiences that you don't want to deal with. And it's become the response to just push down, keep going, push down, keep going, push down, keep going. So that's where high functioning anxiety kind of feeds into deep rooted emotions, because it's a response to pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. And eventually it has to get pulled out, right? So now the fifth one is empathic anxiety. And this is kind of going back to my story where I said that I used to freak out right before I went to sleep. And so I also, and I know a lot of people resonate with this, and this is also a time in the world where a lot of people are saying, I'm an empath, I'm an empath, I'm an empath. Being an empath feels heavy, right? It feels like you absorb the emotions of others. Okay. And now when you see things on the news, when you see gory movies, or you see someone being treated wrongly in public, an animal, a person, a lot of vegans are empaths. When you see these things, you physically and emotionally feel that pain. You feel that emotion that that person is experiencing. And that's a really heavy thing to have. And that creates a lot of anxiety, because you're experiencing, empaths experience the emotions as if they're their own, as if they're actually happening to them, not the other person. And so that's where, this fast news that we have nowadays, and like the constant bad news, and that's where your consumption of news or certain content, certain people, you're going to have to get really, really conscious of what you are consuming. that's the best way to spearhead empathic anxiety. And so I want you to remember, as I wrap up these 5 types of anxiety, I want you to remember that whether you have all of these, whether you have one of them, whether you have none of them and you don't know what you have and you're confused, none of them are you. None of them are you. Anxiety is an experience. Anxiety is an emotion. Anxiety is not a part of your identity. And so your homework for tonight is going to be observe how many times you say the words my anxiety, quote unquote. Observe how many times you say those words. Observe when you feel anxiety and what happened that day. Did you see something on the news? Did you drink extra coffee that day? Did something happen at work? All of the things that I mentioned, all the examples and other things, just like use your judgment of what happened in your day. You could even journal at the end of the day, everything that happened, just so you have a log. And then the next morning, go and with a fresh pair of eyes, say, okay, why did I experience anxiety last night? What happened yesterday? And if none of it makes sense, that's okay. Like, honestly, I think if none of it makes sense, that's a really clear path to, hey, it was number 3, deep rooted emotional trauma. Okay. So start to observe yourself. Start to think of what it is that you respond to and react to with anxiety. And if you need any help with this at all, if you have some kind of reaction and you're like, hey, I don't know what this is about, you can DM me, absolutely, and I will help you work through it. So yeah, your homework for tonight is just to start to observe yourself, keep a journal, think about it at the end of the day, think about what happened today and what did I feel and did I experience anxiety? And yeah, that's it. I hope that you got so much out of today. I know you did. I really appreciate you coming. And as I said before, it is much harder to show up for a free event than it is for a paid one. So if you're still here, I really appreciate you. And I'm very proud of you for being here and showing up for yourself and committing to not letting anxiety enslave you anymore. I promise you that this journey is a long one. I also promise you that the sense of freedom and empowerment you have on the other side of it, and as you continue to move through it, is completely unmatched to anything else. So I love you so much. I'm really excited to go through the rest of the week with you, and I'll see you on day 2.